I'm going to make and design this lathe accessory stand. So in designing the storage system, what I thought I would do is hang a cleat off of the French cleat that I have here. And I'd start with a place to put my grinders and sanders and all those kinds of things, which are kind of big and kind of awkward. And it'd be nice if they were very close at hand, but put away neatly so that they're not always falling on the floor and being in the way of everything. So I made a spot under the window for those. It seemed like it would work. And then I wondered if I could extend that and make a place for my tool rests, because they're also kind of big and an awkward shape and are always kind of in the way. And I'm constantly switching them out as I'm turning something on the lathe. So it's nice to have them very close at hand, but put away nicely. And then once I had sort of a strip running along there, I wondered, well, why couldn't I just use this whole wall and make kind of a vertical, sort of thin vertical storage system that would hang off the French cleat? And then I could make some spots for more of the tool rests and the chucks for the lathe and the faceplates and kind of the things that I'm always switching out a lot also need to be close at hand and put away so they're not in the way as I'm trying to work. I started to make the parts for the design I had come up with. And most of this is cutting out rectangles of varying sizes. So I won't show too much of this section of the project, as it's just me running things through the joiner, the planer, and the table saw. I measured the width of the space I had and decided 40 inches wide would be good, which is about a meter. I made the wide piece at the top. These are the vertical strips that will hold everything together. I wanted to mark out on the sort of front plate at the top where I would cut notches to hang my grinders and sander. And the structure of this is going to be a little bit like a stud wall, in that I'll have vertical pieces that run in between a front and a back. And those vertical structural pieces will make a space for the sanding discs on the grinder and make a space for the tool rest to sit in. I can cut out notches for the grinders, and I did that by just drilling a hole and then cutting out the extra bit so it becomes sort of a U shape. And I can make those a little bigger with the sander. Then I could cut out the shelves, and I wanted those to be the same width. So I set up a stop on the table saw for that. For the cleat, I found 2 extra pieces of cleat that I must have made for a project in the past. And I could biscuit those 2 pieces together to get the length that I needed for the cleat for this project. And I could make sure that was going to fit. The one thing on the wall that I wanted to work out was where the location of the 2 outlets that I have on that part of the wall are, as I didn't want to build anything in front of those outlets. I wanted to make sure I could still plug things in. Then I could drill the holes for the tool rests that go in the shelves, and they'll just sit in those holes. I did use the CNC for one part of the project. This is what it looks like when you run the finishing pass first. It's kind of a screw up. I have some chucks that go on the lathe, and I want to store those on this system as well. And on the back of those is a circular piece, and it's too big for any of the drill bits that I have. So I wanted to cut out a circle to fit those parts of the chucks. So I needed to use the CNC for that, to get those holes to be just the right size. Then you can see how all the parts go together. The small pieces that go on the vertical structural pieces are just spacers to space everything correctly and to kind of make it look a little more finished when everything's done. Then I can start actually putting everything together. I wanted to put this together in a way that I wouldn't really have to measure anything. I could just put it together in the right order where everything would be tight and square in the end. I set up the 3 vertical pieces and I put the little tab pieces on the bottom. I started with a shelf so I could get that width exactly right. Then I could put the horizontal piece on and put the other shelf in place, and that set the width of the 3 vertical pieces. Then I could put the other shelves in with the same method, and the spacer pieces on the front helped keep everything parallel. Then once everything was mostly together, I could use a clamp to make the whole system square. And once everything was square, I could put the bigger piece on the top, and that would sort of hold everything square. And the horizontal strips, I had only put 1 nail in. And once I had everything square, I could then put the second nail in, and that would help hold everything square a little bit as well. So once everything was together on the front, I can put some strips on the back, and these will help hold the shelves up as well as provide a spacer for the cleat. So the whole system will hang vertically off of the cleat on the wall. Then the moment of truth. And I had thought during this whole project that I had probably mismeasured something and something was going to be in the way. It went on the wall and everything was just fine. So I had one last piece to put on the top, and this will make a little shelf for the tool rests. So I can put the sanders and grinders in place, and that worked. And I can put the tool rests in. I've tried a few different arrangements on the tool rests. I think I have it a little closer now than my first attempt. And the chucks can go in place, and they work. And I found some face plates. And the upper cabinet clears the new structure, which was a good sign. So it's all done and hung. And I haven't turned anything with it here yet, but I'm thinking this is going to work really well. It seems like it's really nice having things out in the open where I can just grab whatever tool it is I need at the moment when working on the lathe. One little issue that I'm thinking might be a small problem is that because it's open and everything is accessible, it's going to get covered with chips, with wood chips as I turn things. But I'm hoping that because everything's fairly large and attached, I can go over this with my dust collection vacuum hose and clean it up really easily. Another little issue that I just discovered is that the lower door on the lower door in this lower cabinet hits the bottom shelf. So I'm going to have to cut off just a little bit of the corner of that bottom shelf. And in looking at this, I found the video where I put the doors on this lower cabinet. And I'm going to put that at the end of the video so that you can sort of continue this little story about setting up the lathe area. Thanks for watching.